video is going to be a little different because I'm not actually going to go into kind of a spoiler section. This is just a whole review video, namely because there's not a lot that would be considered a spoiler in the sense of, oh my god, that great thing happened and I don't want people to know. So it's more of kind of like, just, did that even make sense? You know, that didn't really come together. So I'm not really going to have that talk. We're just going to go straight into the review. Let's get the book ready. This time of Daughters of Nuri by Reni K. Amayo. This book was suggested in a international book group that I am part of, along with a few other followers, people I follow on Instagram, including Lou Britt, if I've said that right, Equal Rights, Katrina Wrights, I'll put their names down there, and this book was voted on to be read for our first month. I was quite excited to read it because this was one of the books that I bought just because the cover was pretty. Like, I didn't really know what it was about, but you know, it was just two stunning black women on the front, and it was all gold and shiny, and you know, looked really good. Then once I actually looked inside, it did say the story was about, let's see, yeah, we're not going to read it, we're just going to go into the review. Okay, so first up, Daughters of Nuri is about twin girls who are separated at birth. They grow up in different areas of their kingdom. One grows up in the palace, so among high-ranking individuals, royalty even, and the other grows up among villagers, not poor or anything, but just kind of regular. The palace individual is called Sanai. Yep. And the village individual is called Nala. So they are in fact, they've been separated at birth, but they are in fact goddesses. They're the children of gods that have left the land, the world. It's kind of up to them to, I guess, bring the gods or magic kind of back to the world. Even though it hasn't left, just the gods have left, but there's still the kind of use of magical energy in the world. So that was the premise. That's what I got from what it said on the book. But in fact, that didn't happen. So I usually split these up as, you know, this is the review, should you read it, should you not, and then the other stuff. So I'm trying really hard to not kind of go into what happened. But so I guess we'll just go straight into it after that explanation. Daughters of Nuri gets 2 stars. The reason it doesn't get 1 is because the story has potential. It had so much promise. It was just very poorly executed. I keep looking down here because I made sure to put little notes this time because I just... The story had promise. It was, you know, they don't know that they're magical and they need to discover that, etc., etc. And it didn't come out that way. It wasn't... Oh god. Okay, this is going to be a difficult one. There's going to be a lot of cuts because I'm trying to find words that aren't and basic. Okay, so first up, someone in the book group said, I think it was Lou, who said the dialogue, first of all, is it bad because it's expository? And that's a good way to go. So we're going to go there first. The dialogue doesn't work because it's just constantly telling in a way that people don't normally speak to one another. The story should obviously be described, moved forward by the descriptions that take place, and the dialogue should be a well-rounded and wonderful addition to what's going on in order to make the characters go forward outside of their actions. This completely fails. The dialogue is basic, it's juvenile, okay. The point I'm making is, I don't recommend it. That's the first thing. The point I'm making is, I don't recommend it. I just don't. I didn't enjoy it. I was forcing myself to read it because it was part of the book group and I had to finish it. But by the 10th, 11th chapter, it was just, okay, what's happening? Where is this going? This doesn't make sense. She lives in a palace, but who does she live there with? Who looks after her? What does she do all day outside of the chapters where we're discussing her? What's her purpose? What's happening? The scenes are very convoluted, where there's no sense of time. So as I said, there's a girl living in the palace, kind of royal place, and then there's a girl living in the woods, Sanai and Nala. Sanai has an accident, and it then says she was recovering for weeks or whatever. But then when we go to Nala's point of view, it's not immediately clear whether this was at the time of the accident or the weeks that have gone by. It's just days and nights, but no correlation to one another until they meet at the end. The characters are hollow. The characters are hollow and completely disinterested. Uninterested. You know, there's me saying wrong words and I'm just tearing a book apart. But Nala was the most interesting because she was the kind of, I wouldn't say aggressive, but she was the more strong-natured one, the more strong-willed one. So she does have a few things going on with her in terms of who she interacts with and how she interacts with them. She has a little bit of a kind of a love interest, which in itself was completely unnecessary and went nowhere and did nothing and added nothing to the story. But Sanai, so the royal one, was just utterly boring. You know what? That's it. I'm not gonna go too much. What else? Yeah, the villain was weak. Their powers or what they're able to do wasn't completely explained. The words they used were confusing, and I mean, putting that out there, first of all, it basically put a dictionary of words at the back of the book to explain all the different native words that are put in the book. But where she basically, I feel, forced the African narrative. It's set in Africa. It's set in, tribal settings where these words are normal and of the, it's the way they speak. But it was almost intrusive, especially when we're coming from backgrounds that aren't familiar with those words anyway. And this is coming from a black perspective, but a non-African perspective. So that was very difficult for me to take in. So I can only imagine how much harder it would be for a different demographic to take in, who you're trying to, and let's be real about it, who you're trying to get invested in the types of stories you're telling. And just so no one jumps down my throat and says, oh, would you be saying this about a white author? Yeah, I bloody would, because using it as an example, even though I just loved it so much, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, as well as the Grishaverse in its entirety, is based on Russian culture, words, that kind of thing. And where in the first trilogy, it's kind of Russian kind of words just kind of thrown in and you're not sure why they're there, and it's just like, okay, you could have just said soldier or for whatever reason. But later on in the duology, in the Six of Crows duology, there are specific words. Fjorden is for a specific type of soldier. That word is now ingrained in me because I needed to know that. I wanted this book to be really good for obvious reasons. Black girl magic, okay. But it is no Children of Blood and Bone. And I know that's unfair to, you know, kind of judge books against other books, but when you're going to put yourself into a very succinct and specific category of West African magic, nature, you know, that kind of thing, you are going to come up against those comparisons. And where Tommy Adeyemi was able to create an enthralling world of magic, complex relationships, interesting dialogue, and constant action, Daughters of Nuri is slow paced. I want it to be really elegant there, but I just don't like it. And that's unfortunate, because at the end it has the outright balls to say, oh, the girls will be back in book 2. Girl, I won't be.